Up, guys? Coach Matt here today for the Unfair Advantage podcast. Today, our guest is a very special friend of mine, old teammate of mine, Trace Timmons. Trace was a teammate of mine at Assumption High School wrestling. He was a state placer for Assumption, went on to wrestle in college, a couple of different colleges, actually. We ended up being teammates at Augustana, my first college, and then when I transferred up to Loras, he was actually joining me up there for a year before he got hurt. So we've been teammates for a while, been friends for a while. So I was just on his podcast. What was that, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago? So not that long ago, I was on his podcast for his business. And so I wanted to get him on ours a little bit to talk and have kind of a good conversation about everything. Trace has a long background in athletics, and even with his business right now, still dealing with a bunch of athletes and kind of chasing that different side of athletics with his business. So Trace, we're really very happy to have you on, and give you the floor here for a couple of minutes to kind of talk about yourself and your career and kind of how it's led you to the point that you're in right now, even with coaching and wrestling, kind of how it grew to your business aspect right now. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, guys. If you haven't checked out that pod with Matt and 200 Degrees, that was a really good pod.
yeah,
If you listen to it, I loved it. I listened to it twice, and it was just a conversation. But yeah, wrestling was kind of everything for me, and bled into my work life now. But starting out, we moved up here from Kansas when I was 9. And so Kansas isn't super wrestling heavy. They do have some good programs and stuff, but it was mainly soccer and baseball focused. So I came up here and had to play football or wrestling. And my dad got me into that right away at Rising Knights. So that's where I met like Dean Bush and Pete and Felderman and just all these cats. And I remember walking that ring for the first time, and it was so humid and hot. I'd never been in anything like that, and I couldn't breathe. And I was just getting my butt kicked all the time. And I really did hate wrestling. My dad just kept having me do it and kept pushing, and I really wasn't getting better. Football was kind of my main thing. I wanted to be good at football. I loved football, and I knew wrestling would just kind of help with positioning, being able to tackle, getting low and stuff. And so wrestling was always an afterthought. Didn't really train in the off season, just hit the bare minimum in practice and stuff. And I think that kind of showed for my talent, how good I was doing. I really wasn't progressing much because I wasn't putting in all the extra effort. And so yeah, got to high school, kept wrestling and played football. The football is still my main focus. And like so freshman year, I Brody growth as a sophomore, junior year, and Daily Burton there, and Nick Jordan had him. Yeah, or Davey, holy cool. But then junior year, I hurt my shoulder playing football, and had to have labrum surgery, and it was pretty intense, pretty bad tear. And so I wasn't going to be able to come back for my senior season. So I was like, hey, let's just go all in on wrestling. So quit football, wrestled all summer, 5 times a week. Kind of want to go be started. So I was there with like me, Danny Bullard, Shore, Wags, Bellinger. It was a really small crew. And then so I can't say enough about how important wrestling in the off season is, and getting different partners and coaches and learning everything. One tip for anyone out there, this applies to anyone, your practice partner is everything. I had some practice partners growing up that I think really held me back. They're being fishes, they don't give you a good look, they don't know how to drill, and that kind of really hurts the guy who's trying to work the move. If your partner's not doing it right, then you get out in the match of live wrestling and the move isn't working because it just doesn't feel right. So my advice to anyone is, if you have a bad partner, skip and walk away. Don't have to agree with somebody else, pick somebody else up. You got to have good practice partners. You can't be wasting your time wrestling a fish because the move won't feel right. If they're not giving you resistance, a good look, you just burn, wasting time. So you got to cut those people out of your training. But yeah, so then that senior year I got way tougher. Learned a lot of new moves with wrestling with Eric and Danny. Started eating the crab and legs, tilts and all that stuff down. And then came out senior year and started the season with a bunch of good upsets. Was ranked, went through the season, really fun season, really special team that 2014 year. We won the individual, the dual title, won the dual title as well against Mediapolis. They had a really good team. They had Green, Buster, Foster.
Yeah, they were loaded back then.
Erickson, yeah, they were a tough team. But yeah, qualified for state that senior year. I had never made the state before, so that was really important and special to me, and that was my goal. And I remember going into districts, so only 2 move on from districts to state. And I had Andrew Turner, who was ranked 6th from Waller, and then Jake Klotz, who was ranked 7th. So only 2 of us were getting through.
Mhm.
So I was kind of shitting my pants. I'm like, damn, how did I make it? This is going to be tough. Came out and almost tech Turner and then qualified. So I was super stoked about that. And then we go up to state, state dual finals Wednesday night. Drew Foster. I rifled him once earlier in the year, knowing his decisions are major in eighth. And he beat me that night, so that sucked. And then in the quarter, I drew Drew first round then. So I had to wrestle Drew first round. I dropped another one to him, and so that was just really heartbreaking for me. And then on the backside, I'd first matched this Williamsburg kid who had a major nerve. Oh, my God, it's going to be over. I was kind of in the hallway feeling sorry for myself, crying. And I'll never forget Pete Bush coming up to me. And there's all these other guys around warming up. And I'm just kind of there with my head in my hands. And he comes up and get your ass up, right? Prime, you're to win this match. I just got in my face. And I was like, all right, time to man up. Went out there. We got like a 2-minute 30 leg pass scramble. It was just nonstop leg passing and funk, and I came out on top and scored.
Actually, I remember this match.
It was insane. It was like way higher level wrestling than what I had ever done. So I ended up beating the kid who had Major Maryland earlier in the year, so that felt good. And then what you on the backside? Dropped a 1-point match to Bright Flesh, and he ended up in third. He was like in time third place there, so that was tough. And that sent him to the 7th place match. Lost the tight one to Nick Bondler. He ended up being the state champ and a national champ. Yeah, so we did placement. It was my first year Mars meet. I was happy with that. And then after that, I was signed up just to go to Northern Iowa and just be a student. Had a roommate, had everything figured out. And then Coach Stu from Loris reached out to me, and Jergens reached out to me, and I was talking to them and decided to go wrestle at college. And so I did doggy. It's more expensive of a school than Loris, but they kind of sold me on. We're more expensive for a reason. They get maybe more out of the academics. I'm not trying to say one's better than the other, but I know there's a lot. Vaughn is a really prestigious academic school. It's top, and so I was smarter. I was into that. So yeah, I went to Auden. And man, I wish I had the young guns for club wrestling earlier, because wrestling for Eric changed my life. So, and I also think club wrestling's very having experience with different coaches. Right, like Pete Bush is very free flow. He's very do what you're comfortable with. Like, does it work this way? Does it work that way? Does it work? Don't do it. Like, does this you do it a little differently than it works? And I was very free. Whereas Eric is, it's my way or the highway. You need to do it this way, and it's gonna work. And so I needed a little bit of both. I needed that Eric, and he helped me with hand fighting, sprawling, and then he kept letting me do my funk and working with that. And so it paired up really well. Redshirt freshman year, was ranked all 3 years. Junior year, almost made it to nationals, but lost to Warford kid for 3rd place. I didn't make it. That was a bummer. But next year came out ranked 7th, and I was maybe 15-2 at Christmas time, and then I destroyed my MPFL, meniscus, and a bunch of other stuff, and it was just brutal. So I was done the rest of the year, which really hurt, because I thought that was like just being an All-American was my total goal, and not getting that really hurt. But yeah, and then so after that, a bunch of people at Augie graduated and left. I thought I wasn't having practice partners, and Morris was really on time off with you there, and TJ Miller, and Jimmy Davis, Schuler, Kevin Kelly, Eddie Smith, like you guys were getting tough, and I was like, I could go win a national title there. So I transferred to Morris. Sure enough, first month there, reminded me out again, came back too early, wasn't ready, blew it out, and said, I don't know if I want to spend 20 grand for grad school. I can't wrestle. So dropped out. That hurt, because I felt, especially at 84, I was kind of full in the lineup, but I can feel if I could have grabbed a couple points in nationals, I could have been, I go for it, guys. Yeah, then stood down a big boy job. Did that for a couple of years, and then was out in Denver, and I was kind of getting the itch to come back. I knew I had a year left, and Missouri Baptist coach reached out, offered a full ride to come to my NBA, so went down to St. Louis to wrestle. It was right when COVID hit, so it was so tough, man. Like, everything was so restricted and craziest year ever, dude. It was such BS. Like, we had to wear a mask all the time. You'd have to walk out to your little square on a mat. It's probably about, like two of these, like about this big. Take your mask off, put it in a bag, and you can only wrestle with one partner the whole year. So if your partner's hurt, sick, gone, you don't get to wrestle. So it was just a really tough year, but yeah, I was right there. I really thought I was going to all wreck, and I really believed it. I lost by 1 point to the kid who ended up taking third and second the following year. And so I knew I could do something good, but then in the conference finals that year, I believe I ended out first 30 seconds of the match, got in a really weird position, and my knee just my foot went up above my knee, my knee just popped, and I finished the match and lost by 1 and still qualified for nationals, but then I was on crutches the next 2 weeks, and first little walking, should have been walking yet, it was nationals, and I just got tore up. Yeah, out of shape, knee was bad, had the big old Spencer brace. But yeah, so the thing in saying that, I didn't get either of my goals in high school or college like I wanted to. A lot of us do, right? Very few people do, like Kale Sagerson's probably only undefeated 4-timers, really the only ones that reached their full goal, then even one side. But looking back, I knew I did everything right, putting as much work as I could, working out 2-3 times a day, studying, dieting, not partying. I knew I did everything right, so I really didn't have any regrets. And so I wasn't satisfied with the final goal, but was able to gain some peace on the situation, just knowing how hard you work. And I think people that cut corners don't work as hard as they should, and then when they don't reach their goal, if they really care, they're always going to have that in the back of their mind, that regret, I think you just always got to work as hard as you can to have no regrets, and no matter how the result turns out, if you know that you put your all in, you got to be happy, or at least, at peace with the result. I don't would say satisfied or content, but be at peace with the result that you get, as long as you worked as hard as you could, put everything into it. After that, I came back up to Davenport, got a job at Modern Woodman, an internal audit, coach at Ambrose. I coached at Augie for a year, and then I coached Ambrose their first year wrestling. That was really fun. We had 20-something freshmen on the team, so it was a building year, but fun experience. And then decided, coaching, college house coaching, it takes up a lot of time.
Grinding to fucking grind.
You got to wrestle college kids every day. You got to travel on the weekends. It's basically August to March, long season, so it was exhausting, and I kind of just wanted the winter off, and so did that. And then bought a house kind of down by the East Village, and fixed it up, had some buddies living with me, and then me and my now fiance, we got serious, and I moved in with her, and I told my buddies, like, hey, you guys got to pay market rent, or I got to get somebody else in here. And they said, okay, and they all went their separate ways, left. They got a family in there, and was making pretty good cash flow. And then went to the bank, and I was like, hey, how do I buy more houses if I don't have any money? Literally, that's why I had Crystal Shinford, rep mom, and she was like, this is exactly what you do. You fix this house up. We're going to give you a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, basically a $50,000 bank account. I could have bought a Ferrari with it. I could have gone to Europe, but started buying more houses with that money, paying back the debt I owed. And so, I have 6 rentals now, which are doing really well. So I'm really into the real estate game and really want to grow that a lot. And not wrestling, not coaching. I missed it, but it gave me a lot more free time. And then I've been at Young Guns the past 2 years, working with Herod, which was a lot nicer. Just Tuesday, Thursday for an hour and a half with both kids. Can make a big impact on the wrestling kids that really want to be there, work hard. So that was really fun. But then the sauna business started up. Oh, I'm almost wrapped. Sauna business started up. So I was kind of acquiring weights and dumbbells and stuff and building my own little home gym. And I was like, hey, I need a sauna. I need to go and share a sauna with a bunch of people. They're planning to use it, talking on the phone. They're kind of gross. They don't get as hot. So build my own. We used it for a while. It was good. They got really hot really fast, and I was happy with it. But just aesthetically, and everyone was like, I think you could do this better. I was like, okay. So I posted on Facebook. Somebody bought it right away. And then I had like 5 other people asking, is this available? And I was like, no, it's not. But they were like, can you make me one? And so I just started making them in my garage, Friday nights, Saturdays, listening to country music, drinking a beer, watching UFC and football. And so that's kind of how it got started. And I officially launched the company back in January of this year. And really took off right away. Like orders started coming in. I was getting way more business and busier than I thought I was going to be. So it's been like in a non-stop grind mode for the past few months. And then freaking Linares hit me up, who was one of my heroes growing up. Pretty lefty high C in the game, like one night, arguable. But if you're a lender, and he's like, what if I fly you down to Phoenix and you build me one? I was like, consider less.
Yeah, holy shit.
So I went down there, worked out with Frank, golf, got to wrestle with the team a little, and built the sauna. It turned out really well. And then from that, it was, I don't have a ton of followers there now, but really high quality followers. Like a ton of big wrestlers, Olympic wrestlers, guys in the senior scene. It's really cool. We've been started a little podcast too and having some guests on and whatnot. But yeah, it's been really fun, but it's been a grind and I work a full-time day job too. So life's been super busy, but I wouldn't want to have it any other way, honestly. When I had nothing going on and you just work all day, keep your workout, go home, and it's just video games and stuff like that, I tend to get a little depressed. I get down, and I got to be active and have things going on. So that's really helped with me with my mental health. So if anyone out there struggling with the mental health game, you got to get moving. You got to be doing something. Whether you're making money or not, you got to pick up a hobby and keep yourself busy. Because as long as you're moving, doing stuff that you like, you're not going to get depressed either. I've gone through those bouts of depression where you're just at home all the time and have nothing going on, and you get in your head and you start overthinking about so many different things because you're not focused thinking on your interests, your hobbies, what you want to do. So I think, you got to stay busy, and I think that always helps with depression. I think depression spouts from thinking way too much, not doing enough, sitting around a lot. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of the high-level story of where I'm at now. So custom sauna systems, we build. And the reason I started building saunas was I wasn't happy with what was out there. Stuff was really pricey. I went and checked out a bunch. They take the infrared suck. They give you cancer. They're not good. And made with glue. Hour and a half to get to 150. And pricey. So I wanted to beat all that. I wanted to make it affordable. Super cheap, come out at like $1,500. We can make them, customize everything to the specifications that person wants. So we have standard base packages, and they get to 200 degrees in about 20 minutes.
They get hot. I was in there. They definitely get hot.
And they can get up to 230. And so the benefits of that is you have to wait less time while it's heating up. You have to spend less time in there because it's so hot, and you're just getting way better sauna benefit. The Alzheimer's and dementia and heart disease kind of runs in my family, so really important for that. And there's so much research on sauna, cancer reduction, all kinds of mortality risk reduction, just so good for you overall. So yeah, and people really see value in a affordable, hot, efficient, heater sauna. So yeah, it's how we're.
That's sweet. Yeah, and a lot of people, I feel like your world, especially with the sauna thing, is so specific because there's just not a lot of people that do that in general, right? Especially around here, it's not a big thing. And it's cool because in our sport of wrestling, saunas are either one, like very looked down upon, right? Because of like the past, like, some guy cut weight the wrong way in a sauna, 80 years ago, and now it's like illegal to do it, blah, 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 which, it's not like you should be cutting weight in a sauna anyway, right? Like, not like you should be roasting yourself to the point that you're, draining everything out of you every single day in a sauna, right? But it's very, very beneficial for recovery, and especially in a combat sport like wrestling, right? Like, you get your body beat up, you get your body in different positions, right? Like, where you can be in a sauna, stretch in there even, and use it as a recovery method, right? But it doesn't have to be this negative thing that a lot of, people think it is, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a cool world that you're in now, especially going from being an athlete, who was using saunas in a certain way to, going and building them for those athletes and for other athletes around you. But kind of going back to your story a little bit, it's like you are somebody who had to face a lot of adversity in your athletic career, right? And, falling into that depressive state comes from a lot of adversity as well, right? You hurt yourself and you come back and you hurt yourself again, right? It's like, how are you supposed to give yourself that confidence? But I feel like now it's benefiting you so much outside of wrestling. Like you got to this point now where you're like, okay, these big things that I might think are like a big deal in my life, they're really not that big of a deal anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, how is like the adversity that you faced as an athlete benefited you in a business aspect and almost just in a lifestyle aspect in general?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to any sport. There's a lot, right? You got technique, training, cardio, weightlifting, practices, meets, events. There's just so many different aspects to every sport. And what do you call it? Like analysis paralysis, right? And like I've walked flipper last August and just a massive walked in there and there was so much to do. I didn't know where to start. And it was just taking me so long to figure out where to start and what to do. And I was just getting discouraged and overwhelmed because there was so much stuff to do. I just had to lock back into the wrestling mindset of just chip away. Just start taking care of little things and moving and chipping away and grinding. Works for my office job, works for working out, regular life, wrestling. You just got to be able to chip away at things and not try to look at the big picture all the time. Just focus on little goals and start stacking on them. Let everything else take care of themselves. Let the finals all take care of themselves. But in fact, with wrestling, what I tell the kids is don't go out there and try to win. Go out there and try to win the little battles. Win the hand fight, win your tile, win the shot, win the takedown, get your wrist, get your turn, win all these little battles, and let the weight and law at the end take care of itself. And so with that mentality and just chipping away at the little impact in the work life. And you pick up a sauna, you get a sauna ordering. They want all this special stuff. They want special dimensions. You have all this wood. You got to go to all these different suppliers to get everything. It's a little overwhelming at first. You just got to sit down, lock in, chip away at the little tasks. So ever look at the big overall picture because you can get analysis paralysis and it'll slow you down. It'll hurt you and make you work slower, but just chip away. Take care of the things that you can take care of.
Yeah, I think, kind of going off of that too, it's very, 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 very prevalent thing in our athletes that we train that they are so focused on 900 different things when they come in here sometimes, right? And it's like, at Loris especially, I'm sure you heard it when you were up there. It's like, they would say there's, 50 steps from the front door of Greater to the resting room, right? You got 50 steps to drop all your baggage off at the door, right? You have everything in your head, school, girlfriends, whatever it may be, in your head while you're walking into that room. But if you bring that in there, it is so detrimental to your career, right? And to everything that you're doing around you and your partners and your coaches and your teammates. So it's like the fact of one thing at a time, right? And leaving everything out that may be affecting you in a negative way just for this 1 hour, for this one sauna build, or for this one workout, right? So I think that's a really, really big thing that we're dealing with. Like we come in, or we'll have athletes come in and be like, oh, I just came from baseball practice, right? I feel like I can't work that hard because I just came from practice. And it's like, no, you can work that hard, right? You might be a little tired, but guess what? So is every other athlete in the entire world, right? Like, how are we going to separate yourself? Are you going to be the guy that just says, yeah, I can't work that hard? You're going to be average, or are you going to be the guy that knows that this is just part of that process, right? And so for you, I think it was very much so a process-driven lifestyle that you had to live, right? You had really no choice. It's like, yeah, you focus on all the results that you had, then you would think about your knee tearing, multiple times. Or you would think about how you had to go to different colleges to go find, competition or partners, right? But at the end of the day, I think you were a guy that was very process-driven and process-oriented, and now you're also like that with your business,
And another really good tip for anyone out there is you got to dumb yourself down. We think a lot more than we talk. We have 10 thoughts running through our heads at all times, basically. Like you've had girlfriends, school, working out, wrestling, the gym, just all the aspects, team meetings, everything that goes on. You're thinking about all these things all the time. It's easy to get that analysis paralysis again. So like, I've read the David Goggins book, and it worked for me for a little bit, telling myself like, I'm the toughest motherfucker. I'm the deal no matter what, no matter how I feel. What I found that works for me is I have to dumb everything down and not think as much. Like you said, with the tired baseball player coming in, and he's thinking, I can't give him a help. I better not allow him hurts. I can't throw. I try not to think about that stuff and just if you do it, Nike, just and then or you just do it, dumb yourself down, just do it because like with that flipper house, like I'm looking at him, I don't know where to start, what to do, and I'm like, quit thinking so much, just find something, do it, start chipping away. That thing's down, find the next one, do it. Not doing the forest, start painting, like just chipping away and just being done and not overthinking. And I feel like some of those psychological mind traps, like some of the things David Goggins and Jocko tell themselves, they do work, but when you're right there in the moment, you can't be thinking too much about that stuff. I really think you just need to dumb yourself down, try to not have all these thoughts and chatter in your head, and just do it. Just take action.
For sure. And I think that, you know, one thing that I always tell my wrestlers, especially at big game, is keep it simple, right? Like that's kind of the motto that I have in my head when it comes to complex sports, right? Every sport, the higher up you get in it, whether it's, you know, going from little league to high school, or it's going from, you know, wrestling at a young age to wrestling in high school to then wrestling in college. It's like you have to jump levels technique wise, right? And in some mental stuff, you also jump levels, right? But at the end of the day, you got to keep it simple in your head because, like you said, a million thoughts going on in your head, very detrimental to your career, right? If you're overthinking every move that you're doing, well, okay, I didn't hit this single leg perfectly, right? Then it wasn't a good single leg. It's like, no, you're still learning from that, right? It's still something that's beneficial to you. But yeah, it's, at the end of the day, it's just wrestling. It's just baseball, just one lift. You know what I mean? Like, don't make it bigger than what it is. Don't make the moment bigger than what it is, right? But yeah, it's like there's so much added pressure now to athletes. It's so weird. I don't know if you saw it even coaching in college for Augie and Ambrose, or even at the younger scene, you know, with parent being a lot of pressure on little kids. There's just this weird, like, feeling of pressure 24/7 for athletes. They need to perform a certain way, or they need to look a certain way, and they need to dress a certain way. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what are you doing? Are you doing the sport because you want to be good at it, or because you love it, or are you doing it because you kind of prove to somebody else that you love it, right? So it's a little bit.
That's a really good point because something that always helped me mentally there, I was like, I want to be like all these other assumption guys that are winning state and placing high. And so you want to put yourself on that level, you feel all this pressure to perform next to them. But then you see a guy like Danny Brewer, who at JUCO, he was ranked #1 and he ended up taking 8. Like, good guys don't reach their goals all the time, and it happens. And that all, thinking about those kind of big guys, a really good guy to the goals, take losses. I mean, you saw Henry Pollard, he returned with only a qualifier, right? Like, to see things like that, and it kind of would help relieve a lot of pressure off me. And like, nobody really cares. I mean, yeah, people will do your name and think about you, but that you're the one that cares. And now looking back 10, 15 years, nobody cared. None of them on you. Nobody cared about places today. Nobody cared for state champ. Like, yeah, it's cool, but like the only one that cares at the end of the day, the way that external pressure to live up to other people's expectations. I have a question for you. When you were wrestling, did you have a game plan going into the match?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a general kind of overview of what I wanted to get to, or what my goal would be originally, right? And it's kind of like the 1A, 1B scenario a little bit, right? But I had a 1A, right? I had my main attack, which was, you know, let's get to my inside ties or my underhook or whatever it may be, right? And then my 1B would be the, you know, the first shot, let's say, to send a leg. If I don't get that, I had 1C, right? And then I had my next side. I would say for me, I'm a little bit different than how Trace wrestled. Like Trace said, he had that blueprint laid out for him with Jurin, you know, telling him this is what you're going to do, right? At each time, on go out there and get to this position. For me, and especially being at a lower weight class, I felt like that was a lot more, a little bit harder to obtain, right? Like little guys, they move really fast. They really fast twitch. It's like a lot of things don't work out as planned at those lower weight classes, especially. So I think mine kind of derived from getting really good at technique first, getting that base down first. Just so in the back of my head, I was pretty confident that any position that I could wrestle out of it or wrestle through it, right? But as far as the game plan went, I was more of a guy who kind of took what was given to me. I was still applying pressure and still kind of going forward in my wrestling, but at the end of the day, I was reacting a lot more off of what I was feeling from that opponent, you know, what I'm doing myself. And a lot of times, you know, maybe that got me in trouble sometimes for sure in some wrestling matches, but at the end of the day, if I thought about what I was going to do too much, I would just shut down. So, if I was thinking, I go out and get to my single leg right away, if I don't get there, I probably would have just, lost confidence in my single leg a little bit more, right? But if I just took what was given to me and I kind of just wrestled through positions and at the end of the day, wrestled hard through all the fingerprints, I've all been in control. And that's kind of like my game plan, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that was a great question. I let the game planning stick to my coach a little more, right? They kind of tell me what I needed to do or kind of what they wanted me to do or what the overview of what they wanted me to do was. And then from there, was able to take that blueprint and kind of make it my own a little bit. So,
And you really got to take a outside look at yourself as a person and as a wrestler. Like Yanni Diatlahal, so we might have talked about this on my pod, but he's a guy that can go out there and he's probably looking for anything and everything. So many attacks, things to get to. You have the guy like Comes Rayhans, who is like, I need this guy in a high head so I can Rico roll and get the most pins in the country. For me, and me and Jordan had to get from, and I wasn't the guy that could go out there. If I'm out there and I'm wrestling and I'm looking for any kind of tie or shot that I can get, it really makes me vulnerable, opening up to a lot of my opponent's attacks. And then that just wasn't the style for me. I didn't like it. So we ended up, I was going to come out extremely defensive. I was a really good hand fighter, really. The plan was you're going to go out there the first minute 30, and you're going to fight the cards you bang. We're not taking the shot unless it's there. But not taking, we go wear this guy out. And once he's tired, now we're going to go in the pit top, go in the pit. That is a word we go pit top. We go feeling, we go wrist. If he starts rolling around, we start grabbing. If he does not know, I'm throwing a leg in. So it was just very systematic, and that really helped me a lot with my confidence and not having to play because I had that game plan down and I thought about it so much. So I didn't have to go on every match like thinking and overwhelming myself. I was just going to stick to that game plan. And so I taught a lot of kids to wrestle like that. Like Travis Pulse, we game planned every time. He was going to come out, fight hard for his underhook. He was going to look, me pick if his head is on the opposite side of his underhook. His head's on the same side, we're going high speed. The guy's backing up, we snap. So like, just having an answer at all these positions and being very systematic with your wrestling. Miles for mile.
I think also too, it's like there's such a, I think going back to the pressure thing of being a certain person or a certain athlete also floats in the fact that like you don't need to be great at every single thing in a sport. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to hit every shot in wrestling. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be your best shot, right? Like you have one or two go-to shots every single time that you go out there to wrestle. And same thing with like, a baseball player. You have, maybe one pitch that you really like to hit, right? If you see that pitch, it's that thing, hit it as hard as you can, right? But there's such a pressure to be good and perfect at every little thing. And I'm glad that athletes want to strive to be perfect at everything, but sometimes, and a lot of times, I should say, it's almost about hurts their confidence because they know, like, at the end of the day, you can't be perfect at every little detail, every little situation. So it's the way that you were thinking about it, and so, kind of going back to what you were saying, you knew that if you went out there and you hit these certain things, that you would have a very successful match. Same with Pulse. Like if he got to his underhook and he got to a kneecap, he was going to score, right? Very, very good at those things. He wasn't good at a bunch of different things from his underhook, just a couple, but even if people knew that was coming, they couldn't stop it, right? So I think the pressure of trying to be good at every little thing is just such a big thing for athletes as well, because at the end of the day, even the top athletes in the world, MLB, NFL, whatever it may be, they still have holes in their game, right? You watch a football game, you watch Caleb Williams play football last year, you're like, okay, you could probably get rid of the ball a little bit earlier, right? He's not perfect at getting rid of the ball right away, and he's, a high-level athlete, so even the best guys in the world have mistakes and they make mistakes, and the pressure to be perfect is something that needs to be used in a positive manner, and I think it's just so negatively looked upon because it's just not really attainable, you know what I mean? So
that strategy the Journeys had for me, like, we had a lot of guys like Pool, TK, Keaton Blind, and Deal Charlier, and some of those cats, and they would go out without a game plan, and they were just looking for anything and everything. And I was, hey, you really got one or two good shots that you like and you're good at. We need to try to get to those, but if not, There is nothing wrong with being defensive in hand fighting. You have to scramble in. If he gets it in on a shot, you have an answer. But let's wear him down and get on his head and just be defensive, not let him score. If we can't get to a shot, let's not put ourselves in a vulnerable position for somebody else to score. We haven't worked hard enough or practiced there to really be doing that yet. So let's just be defensive. Let's just not let this guy score. And then I saw Jake and TJ and Vale and Pulse and all these guys, like, if they couldn't get to their ties and attacks, they'd just lay off. They would just be defensive. And yeah, that's not the dominate mindset, go, score as many points as you can, but that mindset isn't for everybody and doesn't work for everybody.
It wins matches, right? Like, you have to win the match at the end of the day. And that's, like what you were talking about earlier. It's like, you're not focused on that result, but you're focused on those positions, right? And that gets you a result, and that gets you where you want to be. And maybe it doesn't every single time, but, majority of the time, if you stick to what you're good at, right? And, if you're wrestling somebody who doesn't have that same mindset, a lot of the time you're going to, be better off than they are, because they're thinking about all the different things while you're focused on the things that matter, right? And I think that's another thing of not looking too far ahead. I think that's a point that we keep circling back to, is just not looking too far ahead. I think that was, day by day was instilled in us from a young age for wrestling. And even, in college, I heard it every day from Trevor Kittleson. It's like one thing at a time, one day at a time, everything's a choice. And we hear that so many times, and it's annoying or even, right? You're like, God damn, I've heard everything's a choice. Like, I have a headache, but not a choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, how you handle it and how you bounce back from it, or how you use your advantage or disadvantage, is your choice. And, being around the athletic scene a lot now, for both of us even, it's a lot of complaining stuff and building, right? Like, it's a lot of little things that don't necessarily matter that people are just allowing to affect it a lot more. And at the end of the day, they could be, blow out their knee 3 times. You know what I mean? They hadn't even experienced that yet. And that's way harder than having to go to school for 8 hours a day, going to one crap day, right? So it's like, there's levels to adversity. And, people sometimes like to complain because they want this, the feeling of the coach or somebody saying like, oh no, I get it. I know I'm actually hard, right? Like, I understand that you just came about this, but, for us being in such a hard school of wrestling, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that too, right? And, you got to be understanding. And every time the athlete comes in here, I'm like, how are you going today? Like, do you have practice today? Do you have practice tonight? Right? Like, there's still the communication, but that's not free entry for them just to, kind of butt out on the window. Take a back feet more depths, because they think, oh, I told folks that I'm hurt in this position, we're not going to do these certain things, right? So, kind of going off of that, get into on like the weightlifting scene a little bit more. I know you were really, really big on weightlifting. I always know, like, as your teammate in high school, I call you always lifting, right? And then at Loris and all that good stuff. At the dungeon, we had all these different things. Greasy dungeon. But how important was weightlifting to you at your athletic career? And as far as training in season, how important was it to maintain your strength and maintain that workout regimen throughout your, high school and food?
My shoulder would weaken, I've been power clonking, and he's done in a couple of high rows.
Yeah.
That's terrible. But yeah, weightlifting is super important. I was always more behind. Go 5 heavy. But where everyone really, or I over like this meth with this, we're not getting out there and benching 5 times, 200 pounds. We'd be able to hold it, be in our stance, have our legs squat, like be able to come up from a stand up, be right here and have our legs be able to hold this position for a long time. Start training a lot. Do put down, curl, back extension, literally any degree. Hold for 30 seconds. And then once the timer goes,
The monster gets
um, 30 seconds, and then you start doing a 3-inch movement. So on a curl, it would be we're holding here, and then we're right here. And that really helps wrestling a lot too, because you're in here wrestling. Yeah, it's not just one tight hold, but it's a lot of this too. It's never really full reps on it.
Yeah.
And then after that, full rep. Another 30 seconds with that. Last 30 seconds. Constant work, constant work. The drawing muffins, but I was going far. And then going to drawing to fine. Equipment you full on since sold. Bring it and sold as you know I go. Because no, you can hold on. But once I started training my back, and so my body was still fortified. Even in full position of old guys, my muscles weren't getting burnt out. I thought it was so much fun to skate. I played isometric. You need to be incorporating in some way, shape, or form for wrestlers. Probably not to put it into football, although you know. And also after you start doing that, your joints start getting stronger. He said, "See, only other, but it's still out." And I would still max out on bench and squats and stuff. 1, 2, 5, down. And I just didn't those go up a lot, even though I wasn't pushing the final bit. Then I'd just be doing my ISO stuff, going maxed out, and I was benching 20 pounds more than what I could before. So it'd be some pivot back from the joint and tendon aspect of doing all the codes.
Yeah, I think something that kind of going off of that is like, we do some ISO stuff here, especially at the accessory work stuff, of more compound lifts and all that good stuff. But like another thing of just keeping it simple. I don't know if you see as much as I do. I see it a lot because I'm honestly in this industry a lot more. But it's like everything has to have a band with it now, right? Like you see people like with a golf club and they have a band attached to it. They're swinging it back and forth to get the golf power. But it's like, why don't you just freaking squat instead, right? Or why don't you just like do something that like actually is a lift, right? Like just because you see it on Twitter or TikTok or whatever it may be, and they're marketing it like it's Tiger Woods is doing it or whatever. First of all, if Tiger Woods get paid to do that, right? Like he's getting paid to do that, but at the end of the day, he's probably not doing it himself. And you got to think. My boss always has a really really good analogy for this. You got to think how they train to get to the point that they're at, not how they're training right now, right? Because like the top athletes in the world, they did something exactly like how we're doing it, right? Like the compound lifts and building, a base level of strength to get to the point where they're at. And now they're at the highest level. So now they can do very little, minimal different things, right? Like whether it's the banded rotation or something like that, to where it's going to benefit them. And they don't really need to do those same compound lifts as they did when they were younger, building up in their careers, essentially. But yeah, don't train how these professional athletes are training right now. Train how they did to get to that point, right? So I think that's a big thing with, different training regimens work for different people, right? At the end of the day, there's different things that work for different people. I can guarantee you that there's one thing that stays the same for athletes, and it's, squatting, it's deadlifting, it's compound movements, right? And then whatever accessory stuff you can add to that to benefit you, you should do that, right? Everybody's different. And, for me, it was some ISO stuff. And then for me, it was also a lot of mobility work, and there's a lot of stretching, a lot of yoga stuff, right? Like, I think that benefited me to not get hurt. Like I got hurt one time in my full wrestling career, right? It was my senior year at Looper. Like I tore my MCL and tore my right calf, right? Like that was my one time that I was on crutches in my, 20 plus years of this. And I benefit a lot of that to training mobility, stretching, and natural strength since I was a kid, right? Even when I was younger, I had a pull-up bar that attached to my shoulder, right? And I would do pull-ups every single time I walk through the door. I would do 10 pull-ups, right? Or 10 push-ups every single time I do a certain thing. It's like from a young age, I built that base, and then now I was able to get more specific with my training over time, right? So, I don't know, kind of based off of that, I know your dad obviously got you into sports, right? With football and wrestling and all that stuff, but he also probably instilled a certain kind of work ethic and mindset. I think that even comes from, making you maybe work with him outside and making you do push-ups and making you do whatever it is. And how much is that those younger years matter for an athlete that's trying to go like a long, long way?
Yeah, the push that's hard into it. I mean, do you think the snow that a red playing? Is that as far as like out, like being the dad yelling at you, when I think he got to workout and stuff, he wasn't really. We moved in 2003. He just did a good job. You know, moving on. So I moved 7 times. When we got here, enjoyed Edward Jones, the bike, starting from nothing. I should build the business, right? 2007, it's buying a prepare. Everybody calling the money out. Nobody's in your. I said this before, but there's a lot of PB&Js this weekend in Applesauce. We're not, we're in a decent neighborhood with a nice house just because deer and thought they're really working with you pension. Learned a lot about hard work there and also the dying of money. My guy and the pen. One pen usually get a hat up that you make that decision sometimes 100 times a day for a couple bucks. And it ends up adding up over time. So I'm big on suiting and counting your money and fishing hens as well. But yeah, just the hard work I saw him do. And he's in the garage working, doing carpentry all the time. He has side jobs. So he's doing carpentry and stuff. And so he's just a hustler. Like the lead, just to work hard. And the days that done, even though you turn 8 hours in, if that's not the days that, well, especially when you're young, you got to pedal the model, you got to work hard and don't look back at 35, 40. Wish you could have been doing more. Wish you really pushed it. She said green, she said gold. All that stuff that we're kind of doing right now, ruining any balance of the map. Yeah. Wanted to touch on the ice, because when did you start getting into lifting?
I would say it was probably, I want to say it was probably my junior year of high school. Danny Bush forced me like every morning to wake up with him. And then I quote Talmud ended up joining this process as well. And I think Monson might have been there as well. But I think it was a junior year that Danny Bush forced me because I was obviously a little guy. Like, not a lot of people here in the gym know that. They've seen like a couple people have seen pictures of me from when I was a freshman in high school. Dude, I was 70. So I didn't break 100 pounds in junior. So I started lifting. You know what I mean? Like I actually started building muscle. But yeah, Danny forced me. He's like, dude, like your technique and the double reference there, you are to choose small. Like I was 30 pounds into the lighter weight factor. That's it, right? So it's probably my junior year, I'd say.
Yeah, because before that, bring you up. No, your car. Yeah. Struggling to take some off the top of my head, but guys did not come out and look strong.
Doing full red blue tail.
Guys don't hit the weaver a lot. But they wrestle on. They're live wrestling a lot. They were going to work way and I just got the neck. You didn't strong at all, Ricky. Beat grip of the real impact technique and stuff that kind of, the Gordon library too, because the guy that probably never hit the weight room when he drawing and how on top peaking what you were thinking button goat, he's just been there. Hasn't did the past 3 years, held the wrist and driving on, so now he's just far more stronger.
Yeah, I think when I think of that, I think of Plump One Man. It's like the perfect picture in my head, like this guy, like literally the size of a pull, he's skinny, like does not like he picked up a weight ever, but he gets on top, protect everybody, dude, can tilt anybody. Like gets a risk, you're not getting in that basically, right? So yeah, that is definitely true. And I mean, even with people like Danny Bush, like when he started getting into lifting a lot, first of all, his physique was just, he was jacked, right? His senior year, he was jacked. And then he was already strong wrestling wise, so it just added to it, right? And I think kind of going off of that with a lot of athletes, especially, it's like just because you feel like you're at a certain point that's good, you like you think you're strong or you think you're athletic, it doesn't mean that you can't get like stronger or more athletic, right? Or just because you think, this system's working for you, well, then take yourself out of that system and see if you can still kind of perform, right? So that kind of bases it off of going back to our high school times that we didn't really have something like this, like a performance center around the area, right? Like I started going to Josh Howard at 5, and that was like when I was at Augie, right? But that was like still my freshman year, sophomore year of college, and that wasn't really a big thing back then. So we kind of had to do it on our own, right? We had to do it like full to spend an hour and whatever that may be. But there is such a weird, like, it has to stay in-house for high schools right now. It's insane, right? When in reality, when I was in high school, I would have got contacted by, a gym I here and performance center and been like, hey, do you guys want to come out, check out the gym, maybe start doing sessions here? I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. Are you kidding me? Like, that didn't make me 20 times better than every other person in the school system, right? So like for you, I think it was a lot more figured out on your own as well, that you were lifting on your own. Yeah, you probably had some guidance a little bit, but at the end of the day, how important would it have been to have like a coach to kind of guide you through that strength conditioning side of things, and really somebody who's specialized in that, right? Like a lot of times it's just football coaches that are there, right, doing it at school, but a specialized lifting coach, how much do you think that would have benefited you going forward?
Holy shit, man. That one, so much time to read, so much weight in the time. Having somebody down pushing you through workouts. We really didn't have anything. That a lot of it was on our own, just in the DT assumption weight road. And I found a lot of it's probably it's around. You want to be working on the active translate well to your sport. Yeah, we gotta work. It was a bit of everything. Like, yeah, you work like you can. What's really important? Probably your lats, probably your leg, explosiveness, grit thing. Those are all things that are super important. So if I wouldn't train to respect the lane of calories, and I wish I would have. Having a coach that could the right direction on a lot of this. I'm really thought about that. Just somebody that knows us and faithful. You play taste. You played a lot of different sports, and you get a lot of different sports. You are the necessary for different sports. So yeah, it is.
That's crazy, man. Like I think back on it too. Like I mean, I I now being in the position of training people, like at the beginning of me working here, I didn't write my own workouts. Even like I had Jerry, my boss, write my workouts. Right, you would give me 3 different lifts. It'd be on an app. I would follow it. Right, and I noticed like, wow, I thought I was lifting the right way, and then I did these lifts, and I was getting exhausted, and I was like, I feel like a pussy right now. You know what I mean? Like I feel weak. Like that I done make a piece thing before, and it's like. No, like I just was doing what I knew I was good at. I was doing what I was comfortable doing, right? I knew I could bench. I knew I knew I was strong upper body, right? Because I do a lot of upper body stuff. Yeah, legs suck. Hitting legs suck. It's always an effect, right? And I kind of stayed away from that because you're cutting weight for wrestling. I do running a lot, doing a lot. You're staying in your stance a lot, which you lost them, right? Doing isometric hold kind of thing in your sport already, which is exhausting. So that little thing on the lift these things I'm not doing it. And at the end of the day, you have to, right? Kind of the motto that we, adapted here is get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? We say that a lot to our kids, and it's how you can get, you can get uncomfortable really easy. How you thrive, how you, can perform in those situations that really, like, it's a great team as an athlete. I think for both of us, like the pressure of, something being a really good team, that was a lot of pressure for an athlete on that side. The fact of at any point, there could be one guy that comes in that win that takes your spot like that, right? Like we were that good. And, people's get it died then as well, right? Just like then the high school is. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like one guy can come in, a freshman, whoever it may be, boom, come in and take your spot. There's a lot of pressure from that. But it's understanding that, like, those uncomfortable things should make you feel folders for it more so they can motivate you for it, so
Let's strip that into conditioning. So we were talking a little conditioning on our pod. I think you get a lot of your conditioning from live wrestling and doing the cardios. It's probably not the same for football. Clear sprints are kind of more in the conditioning. Some of the build and stuff. With conditioning for lab, at the end of practice, we would do a 10-minute hand by running the quick wall spring, spraying the rest, right? The more sprints, right? That's you ready more spring. The idea wasn't we're trying to tell their bones to be better at wrestling. The idea really uncomfortable that thought to that break you hold and see if you can push through it. Like you are so tired, you are so winded. How much you got to need? How much heart do you have? You keep loading through that wall with 100% as much as you can every single go. And then I don't see that translates to wrestling. I went out in finals with the no tournament. you call on the Ricky, and we were in overtime, and we would just both so gas. I knew I'd been here and spread so many times, so I've not looking the chat. Man, it was easy. Because I felt the cares from all those sprints and hard times where I just wanted to break and tell myself to stop wrestling, but just kept sprinting and pushing through. And yeah, a little of it probably does translate the rest of the month and conditioning. The more of it was always mental, being able to break through when you are tired. Such a breath and huge.
For sure. And I think a big thing that another big kind of slogan, we're all about the sayings and slogans here, and that's child Trevor Fiddleson. He kind of instilled everything in my head. But we always talk about how we do hard things here at rep. We do hard things so that when you go play, they're easy, right? Or when you're in your sport, they're easier. And a lot of times, people aren't willing to sacrifice that, right? Like they're not willing to go hard in other areas that don't, directly correspond to baseball. If I'm not playing baseball, if there's not a ball coming at me, I can't hit it. It doesn't, right? It's like, no, because at the end of the day, this is the thing that I asked for, right? And for me, at least, in a high intensity sport of wrestling, being able to just not having to wrestle and just being able to do a lift was like the coolest thing ever, right? It was chill. I could take breaks in between my sets, right? I can sit there, talk to people, it's bullshit, right? Go back and lift heavy weight and not have to worry about exhausting myself to a certain point, right? And wrestling's exhausting. Every single practice is exhausting. And there wasn't one assumption practice in my 4 years there that in between saying, Jesus, dude, that was when I was shit. You know what I mean? Like, where the room is just, you couldn't breathe in, like you said. So, like, a lot of kids don't take advantage of what they're in, and like being a part of a community like this and then group of athletes around you all the time and everything is such a cool experience, right? It's such a team aspect thing, even though it's, people that you may never know, right? There's kids from PB and that door training the same thing. And yet, yesterday I had two baseball kids, one from PD, one from Moore, and they're talking shit to each other. Like, no, we're going to beat you guys. And like, that's cool, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's cool to those athletes too. They're joking around with each other and they're having fun with it, but they're also competing against each other in the workout, right? They're lifting together. And at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you're gonna do 60s? Okay, I can do 65s, right? Like they just push each other a little bit harder. And so it's cool to see that aspect of things. But yeah, I mean, I think for us especially, it's the teams that we were a part of really grew to make us who we are as people, right? Like it wasn't necessarily every coach that we had, right? It wasn't every single person that we met along the way, but there were certain team aspect things that like our Assumption team was so close, right? Our Loris team was so close, right? Like you guys at Avi were all really, really close, right? So even though, it's like, it's a lot easier to go through those shitty things if you have people that are doing it with you, right? And so I think just kind of, I'm just ranting here, but I just think that taking advantage of the opportunities that you have are something that athletes need to benefit from so much more, right? It's the parents are paying for you to come here, and parents are paying for you to go to school, or whatever it may be. There's certain things that athletes don't think about that I think they need to be in. Yeah, so
I want to ask you something. So you've always surrounded yourself the most like by people. Do you have 5 people who party did a part through to that? But I don't want to put any of my friends on like a hierarchy ceiling, but that's the real life. I went through a lot of schools, been involved in a lot of stuff, so I have a lot of different friends, different involved things that like to do. Again, fun junior, but now you get like to swap the hard and playing on and stuff. I still like those things. I don't totally fall in. Keep going at the bar, looking the 3 days, say what's up, but I'm coming home and working it by the end. So that as long as you can keep yourself separate, I think you can have this kind of friends that are on the same track. I think it's important to keep us friendship. If that people want. I mean, really good too. Yeah, you didn't drink it all. will hang out with all of us,
Right.
So as long as you keep yourself separated, or don't unleash you.
For sure. It's funny. My two best friends, my number one best friend is a kid from Assumption, Raul Alvarado. Oh, he wasn't a wrestler. Right? He didn't play a sport in college. He, didn't do any of these things that I did. I wrestled in college. I had to cut weight. He never had to cut weight, right? Like he's, had a different lifestyle that I did, to this point, whatever it may be. But for me, that was a good break from the mentality of the sports. You know what I mean? Like if you just too zoned in, focus on your goal 24/7, like, bro, you gotta enjoy life. Like you gotta enjoy life still, and it's not enjoy life for the fact of going and getting hammered and doing all these things that are, that I don't want to do, because at the end of the day, I didn't want to do those things, and I do enjoy doing those things every once in a while, right? But not all the time. But it's more so just a break from the wrestling mindset, from the athlete mindset. It's just, we can sit around and bullshit about UFC. We can, chill and talk about whatever. Watch a random TV show together that's not athletic driven. So I think getting out of the athlete mindset for me,
And burn out and
it can burn you out, and it also just brings you back to reality too. Where a lot of times, like, there's a lot of just average people in the world, and he's not an average person. He does very well for himself, had a very good job, works really, really hard. Actually, like, I'll tell a different story after this. But at the end of the day, my mindset, and still, like, I've been fighting now, training to be a fighter, and I have a different mindset that I'm still in my head. So, yeah, I think it was just a good way for me to ground myself to reality a little bit more, and not everything's so focused on sports, and it doesn't have all this pressure, because I can just sit and not think about it and just chill out for a little while. It's funny because, and I know Raul won't care if I tell the story, but he, kind of let himself get to a certain point where he wasn't happy with his wife, right? Like, was partying and was drinking and was doing all that stuff and gaining some weight and all that. And then he just made the decision without me, right? And like, I'd been trying to push him to come to the gym and do all that stuff. And he made that decision to just, take that leap on himself and go do it. Now he's down 30 pounds weight. The thing is, now he's, he was 180, now he's 150, running a half marathon, doing a marathon. So it's like, at the end of the day, that was him that did that. He made that decision, but also part of me thinks that he was surrounded by it, right? Like you were saying. So he kind of made that decision based off of surroundings a little bit more. So it's not that I try to convince him to act a certain way or be a certain person, but I do think being around me a lot, right? Like we lived together for a couple months too there. And so I was always going to the gym. I was always eating healthy. I was always doing all this stuff, and it kind of just made him want to do that as well. And like I said, he made the decision, but, I think that being friends with him also benefited that, or helped him to do that as well. So yeah, that's one question that is actually pretty good. Because if I really think about it, like I had a lot of high level wrestler friends, like Eddie, you and Guy, right? Guy was my roommate for 7 years. So it's like I was surrounded by a lot of high level guys. But I also have my friends that never had wrestling before in their life. They have no idea what goes into it, what it takes. They know it's hard, but they don't have the same mental capacity for it as I did, or the same drive for it as I did. So yeah, and I think that's, going off of that is a big thing for high schoolers right now. Like, dude, partying right now in high school is such a big thing. It's insane, right? Like, it was a big thing when we were in high school, but right now, you got 13-year-olds drinking, right? You got 12-year-old. I mean, it's insane. So it's like so much more of a cool thing to kids now, and it's like, you'll get really sick of that really fast, as you said, right? Like, you get over that really fast. You kind of just have to learn from it. It sucks. That's the point that it's at, right? You're gonna have to mess up to realize it, but yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting question.
Well, now what you were saying, you made your you default. He you let him to come out for wrestling as a junior. I don't know how we bought him into it, but how kid never up before. He came out, learned a few moves, was really defensive, hard hand fighter. He qualified for state, and he got cartwright pinned in the first round. The ref was too chicken shit to call it.
Yeah.
There's a picture of him. He's flat on his back pinning. Should have been a state placer his first time out. And then you have guys like Michael Spikes Fawn, and you have Miles Olinger, you have Jacob Odini, you have Moodley guys. There's even guys at college. Christos Giatris, he walked onto the wrestling team. He ended up All-Americaning twice. We had a baseball player come out. We had a couple of football players come out. I think wrestling's for everybody. Like, you don't have to come out and be a star, but it is so good for your mental in the long run. You learn so much about yourself, how hard you can push. You have to learn so many organizational skills to be able to keep your schedule and everything set. And I talked to tons of people that were like, man, I wish I did come out and wrestle. At the end of the day, that did look really fun, and you guys were good, and it was just a good time. Like, on the wrestling teams, there's no kind of respect hierarchy. Like, I treat a backup the same way I'm treating our national champ. Like, and so, yeah, and I always respect the hell out of those guys who come out and give wrestling a shot, because it is going to make you better at football. That's a fact. It is going to show you how to get low, how to wrap hits, how to tackle. It's going to get you conditions, right? It's just going to make you mentally sharp. And does it translate well to baseball? The mental aspects do. Physical, probably not, but like, you probably have too. I've got Raul, Gray, some of those guys. Like, I bet they went out and gave wrestling a shot, but I talked to so many people that were like, yeah, man, we're still going out and wrestle. And even in college, it's not too late. Most E3 and high schools, they'd be happy to have anybody on. Come on, be a training partner, get good, see what you can do. I've seen some of those guys do cool things. I've seen guys come out and never wrestled before in college, and they went out and won some matches.
Right.
That was awesome. That was cool. They beat guys that have been wrestling for 8 years. So, yeah, I think wrestling's really a sport for everybody, no matter what size. I was a really chubby kid till like my junior, senior year where I started lifting harder. And who else? I mean, Cody Pritchard, he was missing a leg.
Right.
I've seen midgets at wrestling tournaments, or little people, sorry.
Yeah, it's very diverse for sure, right? And there's no perfect build for wrestling, right? Like in football or basketball. Like, I'm sorry, I can't go be a point guard, right? I'm not big enough, right? I'll get destroyed. Look at the point guards right now. They're 6'5", right? In the NBA, they're insane. But wrestling, it's like I could wrestle somebody. They are my weight class. Let's say I wrestle at 135 or 133, and I'm wrestling somebody who's 6 foot, but they weighed in at 133. I can still beat that guy who's 6 foot, right? It's always funny because we have athletes that come in here, and, I have football players that whoever, you think you can take me down? Like, yeah, I could take you down. They're like, dude, but I'm way bigger than you. Like, that doesn't matter, though, dude. Like, if I was in on a single leg on you, how are you going to defend it, right? Like, you have no idea how to defend that stuff. So it's funny because, yeah, wrestling is like, I feel like one sport, especially, where it's like, you don't have to be physically gifted to be good at it, right? Like, you can learn technique. Technique is such a powerful thing in wrestling compared to other sports. And, I might be stretching the bar on this a little bit, but my boss will tell me if I am, but he was obviously an Olympic weightlifter, right? And he's, shorter guy. He's 5'8", 5'9", right? He's not a huge dude, but he's, can power clean and do these numbers that, 6'5" NFL guys are doing, right? So it's a lot of technique-based stuff, and weight class sports especially don't really matter about physical attributes because at the end of the day, you guys win at the same spot. So yeah, that's definitely a good point I never even thought about, but got a couple more things here to wrap this up.
Sure.
So kind of going into your business side of things now. Just kind of want to give you a second to talk about that even more. Obviously, you kind of briefly did an overview on everything. For you guys that don't know, Custom Sauna Systems is Trace's company. That was saunas that he's building. I had the opportunity to go do a podcast with them. I was in one of them. They're amazing. I can't wait till I get a house so I can have you come build one in there for me. But what do you think is the biggest, what is the biggest quality that you've taken from your athletic career into your business career that has like made you successful already? Obviously, you want to grow a shit ton more with this, right? Ultimately, but you have to start somewhere, and it's hard to start up a business, especially with the unknown of what it's going to be, right? Yeah. So what kind of are those key qualities that you took from your athletic career that translated very, very well for you?
Definitely just, number one, the hard work. I remember I got voted by the team hardest worker 1 or 2 years at Audi, so that meant a lot to me, even though I never really thought about it or was striving to get that. But I was the guy, I'd go out sometimes, and Illinois bars were open till 3 a.m., so sometimes you didn't get to bed till 4, but me and Dan Tremanas on those nights, we were up at 7 a.m. to lift the next day, no matter what. It's, if you go out with the boys, you wake up with the men. So just having that grind and being able to be consistent. I kind of talked about it earlier with analysis paralysis, just chipping away at it, being dumb, don't overthink, just start doing things. If we have this room right now, I see that there's stuff everywhere, to be like, how am I going to organize this? Just pick something up and start going, start figuring stuff out. You might have to go back and correct things, but you just got to keep going and figuring things out. And the other thing would be risk, right? So going to Audi, that was a risk for me. It was 10 grand to go to Lourdes, 20 to go to Audi for a year. Went with the bigger risk and went to Audi. Ended up loving it. It was a great decision for me. There's risks on the shot. You're in this time, you have the action. Do I go finance carry or do I go telly? Risk, making decisions. So a lot of times you got to make really fast decisions and stick with it and trust your gut. And that's one thing, because starting this up, it was super overwhelming at first. I'm working with a bunch of different suppliers and there's so much logistics and calls and emails, and I'm supposed to be doing the building. So like, it really was, a bit of a risk on my part. But yeah, just being able to make decisions and stick with it, being able to correct course if you need to, being malleable, being flexible, being able to learn, not just sticking to one thing and doing, what do they call it, doing the same thing that doesn't work is the definition of insanity, or whatever that quote is. Like, yeah, being able to learn and fix things and be malleable. Like, my wrestling has changed a lot from a lot of different coaches. I have a lot of different people and practice partners and guys to thank. And yeah, just being able to change on the fly and be adaptable. We've changed a lot of things with our designs and saunas. We take critique and feedback from people who are able to change things to make it a better and more efficient product. That, along with what else?
I think the risk thing is awesome. I'm sure I've heard it, but I've never heard it put like that, like taking the risk, right? Like, because athletics especially is like, it's a risk in itself, right? Like, putting yourself towards something is a huge risk. Like, I've never heard that before, but like,
a shot is a risk.
Yeah.
Taking a shot, you might not get it. Walking onto the tee, you might not get the certain spot. You might go 0-10. A lot of it's a pride thing too. It's like, and for me, pride is like, some people have their own little guy in their head that's like looking down on them, saying like, you weren't good enough or not. Some people need have external pride that I need to look good for the crowd, but crushing your pride and wiping it out. Because with the sauna thing, I've done some goofy videos. I've done some days where I'm in front of the camera talking, and that just wasn't really uncomfortable on me. And so putting yourself out there and just not giving a shit what people think. Like, we have this spot, like, we have our own podcast, and we do, anywhere from 20 to 50 views a podcast, which isn't, huge or what I would like it to be at, but hey, I'm doing it. You got to start somewhere and really got to put yourself out there. Quit giving a shit what people think. I think social media has messed that up a lot to the younger generation. Like, how many likes does my video get? Or do I care what people think about me? Or this girl didn't like my video, or nobody shared it. Like, who gives a shit? You got to keep pushing through. You know, let that beat you, and you got to quit, or you keep going and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a very good, and social media is definitely ruining a lot of things for kids right now, And once I kind of got into this marketing position I'm in right now on social media, and I'm posting on social media, like I run our CrossFit side of things, I run our athlete side of things, I run, whatever at social media, I'm running it. So for me, I'm on it all the time, right? Like, I'm on it to post, I'm on it to see what people are posting, what people are doing, right? And so I'm on my own personal stuff a lot less now because of that. And, it's because of that fact, because I'm like, dude, I can't be around this 24/7. This is just horrible for me mentally, right? Like, it's just so much comparative. Like, I'll see a gym that, is probably a bigger gym than us. They're out in California, or they have, multiple locations, and yeah, they're getting thousands and thousands of likes on videos, and it's the same video that I posted before, or like the same idea, right? And just not getting the same traction. And at first I'm like, man, dude, like, what is the point of this if I'm not getting, whatever? But at the end of the day, I'm like, no, like, even if one new person sees this video, that's a win for me, right? Then all of a sudden they tell somebody about it, or it's just word of mouth and stuff like that. So it's the small victories, I think, that mean a lot more than, the end result or whatever the finishing touch is on that. But yeah, the risk of everything is a very, very good thing. People fear risk for sure.
Yeah, like, decent example, I did a podcast with Mike Mao the other day. Been around Flow forever, pretty big name in the wrestling world, and I thought it was going to be huge, and posted it, and ended up getting like 5 or 6 likes, and it's just like, all right, let's just move. And then I posted the video of the sauna we built, and they got like 40 something like them, and we posted that about. But yeah, just keep trying to push it, because you never know when the one thing is going to blow up. So like, when I was doing the saunas, I was getting so burnt out, because I was working like my day job, then working till like 11 midnight, building saunas for people, was just overloaded. And then I went to the litter one. And you never know what opportunities are going to come up for you, what people are going to meet, what doors are going to open. And I go to Katie Barra's in Fort Dodge to install a sauna, and Tristan's there. And it was almost like a Wolf of Wall Street, when Leo gets Jonah Hill to quit his
Yeah.
joining team type thing. He was like, yeah, I'm pouring concrete. This looks awesome, man. I'd love to be involved. And I was like, you want to do it? Let's start next week. And he was like, fuck it, let's do it. And came over, picked it up. He's crushing it. We got a bunch of orders in it. And just things like that is what, like, part of you've never had an experience like that, because I know I'm going to have a lot more doors open. Like this weekend, today, me and Tristan are flying to Florida to do a sauna for Logan Storley, former Bellator champ. He trains with Gilbert Burns, Robbie Lawler, Ian Beering, Mitch Heaney, Michael Watkins, all those guys. So, like, huge opportunity for us, going to be super cool. And how did I get that opportunity? I reached out and said, Logan, hey, you want to do a podcast?
Right.
And then it turned into this. And you just got to be knocking on doors, reaching out, trying everything and anything, not being afraid to fail. I failed at a lot of things in my life, and that could hold a lot of people back. People are scared to put themselves out there, scared to look like an idiot, scared what other people think. And I think that says a lot about you as a person if you're scared of all those things. You really got to put yourself out there and try if you want to make things done. And so some of these things in our lives take, man, like you bring more clients in the door.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got to do to bring more clients on?
You just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You got to be good. Well, one, you got to be good at what you do, right? Two, you got to take the risk on yourself a lot of the time, right? Bet on yourself a lot. And yeah, it's just like, I know for a fact, like, in this, some people watching this might be like, that coffee, right? But it's not. I know for a fact, if I get an athlete in the store and I trade them one time, that I can get them back in here again, right? Same thing with big game. I know if I can just get the girl to come to big game, if they're scared, they've never wrestled before, they don't know anybody there, right? Like, they don't know me. I'm a male in a female coaching role, right? Like, it's a lot different for them. If I could get them in the door, they can feel the environment, they can feel my coaching style, they can feel exactly what culture is built around the club or around the gym or whatever, the worst stuff, right? The hardest part is getting them in the door, basically, right? So yeah, that's a great point. But yeah, so I think that also answered my last question. It was kind of just, what is your unfair, so we call this the Unfair Advantage podcast, right? What is your unfair advantage to athletes, right? So, it can be consistency is one of them, or it can be, taking risk is another one of them, right? So I think for you, your unfair advantage is, taking that risk on yourself. You've done it so many times, right? You've risked so many things, whether it's moving to a different college, it's starting a business, it's leaving wrestling and leaving coaching wrestling, right? That's a risk that you were willing to take. So I think that your unfair advantage ultimately is take the risk, attack whatever it is that you're risking to 100% of your ability, and then whatever happens from that, you just go from there, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes ever from Dana White, and I might be off a few words here, but he's like, all these guys are pussies, man. You go out and outwork them, you're going to run them all over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that every day. I think, you do kind of have to put yourself on a pedestal and be a little cocky and arrogant sometimes, just to mentally motivate yourself. But I just tell myself, nobody works as hard as I do. These guys are pussies. I'm going to outwork them all, and it's going to show, and it's been showing. And kind of got to lie to yourself and, like, motivate yourself a little bit in some ways, but it's true, man. You just got to outwork people. You got to show up, and not just show up, but you got to outwork, and you got to put your effort in. Outworking.
Absolutely. Well, it was awesome having you on, dude. I'm glad that we did this. I'm sure we'll be asking you to come back on. Usually we have reoccurring guests on here for sure. So I'm sure we'll get you back on. I'm hoping to get Tristan on as well, just to get both you guys on here. But yeah, if you haven't, make sure you go follow Custom Sauna Systems on Instagram. You guys have Facebook and all that stuff too, or what?
Yeah, Facebook is just Sauna Systems.
Okay.
They wouldn't let me do custom. At Custom Sauna Systems on Instagram. Just want to shout out some of my coaches and partners that I've had that have made a big impact in my life. Pete Bush, Eric Jurgens, Dave Bush, Eric Clark, Tony Willer. You guys rock, man. You guys do me a lot. Just wanted to say thank you. Yeah, it's awesome, dude.
Awesome. Sweet, dude. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.